My parents always told me that I was a big girl, so every morning I had to go to daycare with two other children. There was a girl who was 2 years older than me and a boy who was 1 year older. The daycare was visible across the Beira River, but we had to walk far because the bridge across the river was a kilometer to the north. It wasn't a real bridge, just a wooden raft placed in the narrowest part of the river so people could cross it. I was always afraid to go to daycare because the girl constantly reminded me of the green monster that lived on the riverbank. But I knew that I was already a big girl and had to be brave and not be afraid of some green monsters. Despite the girl's constant reminders, I was determined to be brave and not be afraid. One sunny day, the long-awaited spring arrived. The weather was clear, the sun was shining in the sky, warming everything and everyone. Birds chirped their spring songs, filling my child's soul with the melody of happiness. The sun's rays caressed my face, and I smiled at them. "Why are you smiling?" the girl asked me. "Just because," I replied shortly. "Only fools smile for no reason. You better watch out for the green monster," she reminded me. "There's no monster there," I retorted boldly. "Oh, come on. Look! Look! There! Do you see its tail sticking out behind the hill by the river?" she smirked. I saw the dark green tail of the monster sticking out from behind the hill. But I tried to remain calm. "But I'm not scared," I stubbornly shouted. "You're not scared. You're still scared. You're a coward." "No, I'm not scared," I shouted stubbornly. "Well, if you're not scared, then go there, and we'll see how the green monster eats you alive," she challenged, pushing me towards the green monster. I stumbled over a stone lying on the road and almost fell from the push. The girl and the boy passed me by, laughing mockingly. I followed them until we reached the bridge. At this time of year, the snow melted, the river overflowed, and the water in the river rose. The bridge lay in its usual place and swayed on the water. But as soon as we stepped onto the bridge, it balanced for a second or two, and then suddenly floated downstream. "Oh my God!" the girl screamed. She tried to jump to the shore, but it was too late. The raft quickly floated downstream and gained speed with each passing second. The boy who was with us started crying, and a big green bubble of snot came out of his nose. I looked at the riverbank, trying to see the green monster closer, but it wasn't there. I looked and suddenly saw the tail of the monster. I squinted, but upon closer inspection, it turned out to be a long branch of a tall tree. The tree stood at the foot of the hill, close to the water, and only the branch was visible from the other side of the hill. The girl continued to scream. I knew there was no green monster there. I thought, "I'm not a coward. She's the coward. Look how she's crying. She's afraid of the green monster." I looked around and suddenly realized why she was screaming. The raft was quickly floating downstream. Then, I was still too little to know that 30 kilometers away from us, the Beira River flows into the huge Amour, and if we had floated there, no one would have found us. I was scared. How would we get to daycare? What should we do? Unable to find answers to my questions, I continued to look at the riverbank in the hope of seeing someone who could help us. But the riverbanks were deserted. A few minutes later, the raft's speed matched the speed of the river. It would have been a fun and exciting ride, and we would have enjoyed it if we hadn't been so scared. Suddenly, I saw two fishermen on the riverbank. "Fishermen!" I shouted. "There they are!" I pointed at them, and we all began to shout to get their attention. The fishermen caught the raft with poles with hooks, which they usually use to pull the fishing net out of the water. The fishermen's huge hands lifted me from the raft and carried me to the shore. My right boot got caught on the edge of the raft and fell into the water. The fisherman picked it up, poured out the water, and handed it to me. "Here you go. Brave little sailor." I couldn't put on the boot because it was wet, so I went home barefoot. Yes, home, not to daycare. Because there was no bridge across the river anymore, and the fishermen fished on our side of the river. Halfway home, I met my mom. Someone had already told her about my little adventure, and she ran to me. She grabbed me in her arms and started kissing and hugging me for so long that I even got tired of her hugs. When she finally calmed down, I decided to cheer her up. "Mom, you don't need to be afraid. And you don't need to cry. There's no green monster on the river. It's just a tree. I saw it myself." Mom hugged me even tighter and laughed through her tears. Do you know why?